Wrong.
The town drunk.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
All right, let's get right into it. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you joining me. This is Blunt Politics. I am Boston Brian. This is the Thursday show. Thank you so much for being here. We just, try to fight through the bullshit of the mainstream media while keeping up with all the current news, trying to combat everything that is Donald Trump and the GOP, keeping Ukraine on everybody's minds. Today, we have a very special guest, somebody that joined me on my trip, the humanitarian aid convoy to Ukraine. I'm very happy to bring him in. He is a well-known journalist and author. He was once a writer at the San Francisco Chronicle. I think he has about 15 books out there, 6 of which I believe made the New York Times bestseller. He can correct me on this. Also the author of a very special book you may have seen in the movie Fever Pitch. We'll bring him in now. His name is Steve Kettmann. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining me. Let's see if I can get this one right here and bring you in. That's not the one. Is this the one? That's not the one. Let's see if we can figure out which one we're going to get you in here. Let's see. Remove stage. You got to be in there somewhere, right? Here? That doesn't make any sense, though. Why is there 3 of us? Oh, I got you. I see what's going on. There we go. All right. How you doing, Steve? What's going on, buddy?
I'm hanging in there, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
You know what? It's a pleasure. It's an honor to see you again. Last time we saw each other was obviously on our trip to Europe, to Ukraine, to deliver aid, medical equipment, everything from trucks and ambulances and fire trucks all the way down to bug spray and mosquito repellent, anything that can be used on the front lines to help. So once again, I thank you not only for your services, your duty, but also being one of the very early outspoken people against Donald Trump as far as his political run. So again, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for your time, your energy, and taking the time to go over to Ukraine and see firsthand what has been going on. So what have you been doing since? What's been going on? How you been, bud?
Well, I've been keeping busy, and I'm happy to tell you all about it. But you just talked about how it was early on Trump, and I don't know if we talked about this. I could try to give you the link, but when Trump was elected here in Santa Cruz, California, where I live, we're now almost neighbors since you're in my state.
Right.
So I love having a Boston guy in LA or wherever you are. But after Trump was elected, I was talking about how we all need to think about Orwell. And so I run a small writers retreat center called the Wellstone Center in the Redwoods, where we just host writers and try to inspire people. But we partnered with Bookshop Santa Cruz, which is the local independent bookstore. And we did a live reading of George Orwell's 1984 from the first line to the last. And it's just kind of chilling to think about because, Brian, you're just trying to cut through the fog of what's out there. You're a passionate voice with and you got a good following that you deserve. And you're just trying to do that. Well, I was trying to do that the week he was elected. You know what I mean? This is Anais. Hello.
How are you? Nice to see you. That's so cute. So cute.
And I wrote a cover story about that. And it's just kind of weird where the things that someone like you or me would talk about over, a beer, it should be obvious to everyone. But for some reason, some people don't connect the dots to see the danger in what's happening. And that to me is the real power of Ukraine. I came back from Ukraine feeling almost like, you see, I wear glasses, and there's that feeling in the morning where you can't quite find your glasses and you're kind of fumbling around in the dark. And then you put your glasses on and you can see clearly again. And I would like, I was with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, 2 days ago, and I was trying to get him to come to Ukraine. I talked to different people. I'm trying to get them to come to Ukraine so they can talk to Americans about to remind them of why this is our struggle, and why what the Ukrainians are fighting for is what we're fighting for, which is a world where bullies can't just come in. They can't pull people off the streets the way ICE has been doing in LA. It all goes together. So I don't want to give you a overly long answers, but to me, that's the way it all fits together.
I mean, no, that was perfect. And like I said, we were talking about earlier before we started recording here about, the strike on the train with the North Korean missile that ended up killing 10 plus Ukrainians, and how that's being put on the back pages and in the back burner because of what's happening between Israel, Iran, and what Trump's doing, the strikes. So it's not really being talked about or covered in the way that it should be covered. I haven't heard Donald Trump really say much about it, if anything. But it's still ongoing. It's gotten worse. I believe the amount of drone attacks has almost doubled since Donald Trump has taken office. So it's not like the man came in and said I could sit them both down in a room and in 24 hours I'd have this thing finished. Obviously, that was just patooey. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not gonna swear with the youngin' around, but I mean that was just it was false. You know what I mean? It just was never gonna happen. But somehow people did believe that he had the power based on some fictional belief that he wrote this book 20, 30, 40 years ago about the art of the deal, and it's like again, we call him the what a poor guy think a rich man should be. Right. And what a weak man thinks a strong man should be. And they just kind of latch onto him for that reason. And it's really mystifying for not only me and yourself and people in the chat to try to figure out what is the, why people would follow somebody with, sexual assault in his background, somebody that was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend for 20 plus years. I mean, the list goes on as far as cheating on his wife, screwing over, clients. I mean, like I said, the list goes on. So how anybody could get behind that and actually believe his bull is something that's going to be studied, I believe, for a long time. I think so. But what did you take? What was your takeaway from our trip to Ukraine? It was short. We, it's honestly, it's tough for me to remember when everybody came to the trip because some people came at different times. Some people left at different times. There were some people that drove the truck from Sweden, I believe, Finland to Warsaw, and then they, that was their part, and then we kind of took over on our leg. I saw you guys, I think, a little bit later in the trip. But what was your takeaway from your time in Ukraine and what you saw and the people you talked to?
Well, Brian, I think last I saw you was about last call in Kyiv, and I think it was the Intercontinental or whatever. As I recall, it's a slightly blurry memory, but I went on further down with Denver Riggleman, the former Republican congressman, and Ken Harbaugh, the filmmaker, and we went all the way down to Kherson. So we were really in the war zone. And Riggleman and I had an experience there where, first of all, we interviewed these two of the three girls that we're trying to develop a film about, to tell the story of courage, the Ukrainian people's courage, and also to look at how drone warfare. Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, that's excellent. Riggleman. Yeah. Shout out for Denver. So we're looking at courage and resilience and those qualities. And that hit me so hard. Again, you've met one of my daughters, and it came back and I couldn't stop thinking about that. When you're over there, it's a different experience. We were in Kherson doing interviews, and the car we were driving, Riggleman had to drive this left-handed stick shift. Right. Car kept stalling. So we would have to, you're there where you have to worry about attacks. And
sorry, buddy. I think something's happening with your mic.
Okay, please, I need you to now leave the room. Okay? No.
Sorry about that. My
No
apologies.
problem. Yeah, something's happening with the mic. Yeah. Could you please close the door, girls? Yeah. Brian, they just, they heard your voice. They wanted to join.
Listen, not a problem whatsoever. Pets, children, it's okay. We love them all.
Okay. So, but because I'm a father of 2 girls, it might have hit me even harder. I don't know. But meeting these girls in Kherson, and they would tell these stories of things that they did to help the resistance in Kherson. And, it was so powerful and so amazing. And they're just kids. They're ordinary people caught up in extraordinary times, showing extraordinary courage. And we come out of there. The car won't start. We were push starting a car when, a drone could theoretically come, it gets your attention. And then we're trying to just get back to a safer zone. And, Riggleman and I remember posing for a picture with Riggleman in the square there in Kherson.
Yeah.
Well, 2 days later, they bombed the hell out of that square.
Right.
Then we get back to Odessa, which feels like a European tourist kind of place.
Right. Yep.
And then at night we're in the air raid shelter as the major drone attack is coming in, and when you've been in the drone attack with these shaheeds coming in, and then you hear about the Iranian who set that up, the pipeline of Shaheed drones to Russia. You really look at it different. It really has some extra impact. So the thing I came back with was this vivid sense of it all being connected. And I think that you do that on your show, where you talk a lot about how things are connected. And I think that's what we need to continue to talk about and hopefully bring alive for people in a way that it really hits home, because there's Ken Harbaugh. I talk to a lot of people here in California who really care passionately about what's happening in Ukraine and are very tuned into the story of Ukrainians. But again, distractions kind of get in the way. So anything you can do to break through that noise, I think, is very important.
Now, if you will allow me, I just want to play just a short clip. This is Ken Harbaugh and Denver Riggleman. They had some incredible footage. This is just one of the videos that they did. I'm not sure if they actually show the footage of the air raid that I believe it was Ken Harbaugh that took that footage. But I mean, just again, going even further into Ukraine after we were in Kyiv. I think Maddie, the photographer, also went somewhere into the front lines. I mean, it's amazing to see that, people are willing to, literally put their necks on the lines to make sure that this gets covered, to make sure that it gets attention, to make sure that it stays in the fucking headlines. Pardon my French, and I apologize. But I mean, it's these people are dying every night. People are being, the mind games that are being played. I mean, just a few nights that we were there, where the air raid siren would go off somewhere around midnight, right? And then you'd finally settle back down, and then around 2:30 or 3, it would go off again, and then it'd take you a little. So you never really get that good 8 hours of sleep that really you need. So that's also a side of like mental warfare that they're playing, because sometimes the drones come in, sometimes they don't. But you're risking your neck by not going down to the shelter. But you know what I mean? After a while, after 30, 40 times of the air raid going off and nothing happening, or two years of it, they tend to just continue on with their lives. So again, for us to go over there, hear the siren, and we're all of a sudden like this, and then we look around, and the Ukrainians who just didn't even flinch, not even blinking, didn't even do anything, and you're like, all right, well, I guess we'll just keep going. You know what I mean? So whatever happens. But I just want to play a little clip of this. I think it shows just a little bit of what you're talking about. So and then we'll get back to the conversation. Let me see if I can find it here now on where I put it. Here it is. Here we go.
Relief efforts. Thanks.
It's Ken Harbaugh at the Midas Touch and Valor Media Networks, here with Denver Riggleman in a small village on the outskirts of Kherson that was occupied by the Russians for 9 months. And this is the legacy of that occupation: a mountain of expended shells, rockets, artillery rounds, fragments, This hasn't been cleared by EOD, so we're not going to get too close to it. But we've had an extraordinary trip so far, talking to Ukrainians about what it was like to defend against this. Denver, you've had some amazing conversations yourself. What's your lasting impression?
It's tough. Thanks for bringing me here, Ken, because I look around, I got a destroyed city center over here. We got a destroyed gas station over here. We have trenches all the way through this small village. But what gets me, me and you, we have this, we're military, prior military. We have this like gallows humor, right? That dark humor. But what's really impressed me when we're talking to people like Tango, who's a drone operator, who's seen the worst, lost friends, some of the other people we've talked to, is their ability to have this affable nature, this humor, despite the awfulness that they've gone through. But then you have these dips where you can see how it affects them. We know what that looks like. And you see it in their eyes when they're talking about the friends that have fallen. And I think what's amazing is their spirit. Yeah. And honestly, their knowledge of the battlefield and the battle space it's actually stunning, what they know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your perspective, Denver. We've got a few days to go, but
I get goosebumps you talking to me about it right now. Some of the best people I've ever met are here in Ukraine, and I just feel like it's my second time here, Ken. And you turning me on to what's happening over here, and me being able to come over here has actually changed my life in a way. At my advanced old age of 55, right? That it's changed my life, and I thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Well, I feel what he's saying in such a close way. You know what I mean? Just being able to relate to talking to the people of Ukraine and how thankful they were. And literally, I talked about on the show how embarrassed I was that our country wasn't doing more, even though I know that we could be doing more. As much as we have done, we could be doing more and should be doing more. And whether it's, independent citizens, or whether it's governments, or whether it's, defense corporations investing, I think it would be prudent of them to get over there and start working side by side with some of these Ukrainian defense corporations in the government and in the military itself, because they got something going over there. I mean, we saw drone demonstrations at a shooting range that they took us to, and then not 2 days, I believe, after we got back, we heard about that attack deep inside of Russia on their air bases that Ukraine had taken out, something like a ridiculous amount of dollars worth of aircraft that were very irreplaceable for the Russians. So to see the drones that we were looking at and seeing them in action and being demonstrated and then see them in action right after we left and seeing what they could do was really a confirmation of everything that we saw. So what is it that you think we should be doing as political commentators, as an author yourself, to raise more awareness and to get people to understand how really advanced Ukraine is militarily, as far as drone technology, AI warfare, and that sort of thing, and how prudent it would be of us to start getting involved in a major way?
Well, I think, our Ukrainian guides emphasized that they wanted American people to understand the distinction between a Russian war effort that is primarily about targeting civilians and terrorizing them, as you just talked about so, powerfully, versus Ukrainians who, I think you and I were both in country in Ukraine when Operation Spiderweb unfolded, and the Ukrainians pulled off this remarkable hit deep into Russia on multiple airfields, blowing up a lot of irreplaceable Russian bombers that had been wreaking terror on the Ukrainians. But that fundamental contrast between the Russians targeting civilians and the Ukrainians mostly targeting military targets is so important. And that's what they asked me to talk about. I just sent a link in the private chat. I don't know if you or someone, but this is the article I did for the Santa Cruz Weekly this last week. And Santa Cruz, it's called The Good Times, which makes it sound like, a cannabis.
I just threw it in the chat, my friend. Just threw it in the chat.
Okay. And but it has been voted the best weekly in California for 3 years in a row, which is kind of amazing. But I emphasize that point where I remember seeing this young girl in Kyiv who saw us as Americans. And I'm like you, I was kind of embarrassed to be recognized as an American.
Mm-hmm.
And she was friendly. She might have said thank you, if I recall. And I wrote about, Vladimir Putin's trying to kill that girl, and like that is the story that I try to keep telling. The resourcefulness of the Ukrainians is the other important piece. They're not losing this war. They're winning this war. It will take time. But Vladimir Putin is trying to bluff his way into making, to making it seem inevitable. One reason I wanted to come on is I think you and I are guys that can go from Ukraine to sports and back in a second. I wrote a book called One Day at Fenway, all about one game between the Red Sox and the Yankees back in that period before the curse was lifted. And in that same period, the Yankees played the San Diego Padres in the World Series. And I remember sitting there at Yankee Stadium, and Bruce Bochy was the Padre manager. Bruce became a very good friend. I did a book with him, and he was a great manager. But at that time, the Padres, you're now in Southern California, they just did not have the mental toughness to stand even with the Yankees. And I remember my friend Pedro Gomez, the longtime ESPN baseball reporter, the two of us were sitting at Yankee Stadium and we saw the starting pitcher, Andy Ashby, come out. And you could just see Yankee Stadium, all that history, the roar of the crowd, and the guy melted in front of your eyes. And I tell that story because the Padres lost right there. The Yankees won right there. Pedro and I thought so, and then that's how the game played out. We were exactly right.
Right.
And what Vladimir...
Well, what the hell? Where were you? You should have told me before. I could have made some money, I could have made some money on that.
I don't think we had betting back then the way we do now. But,
did they cover the spread?
No, they didn't. But so like George Steinbrenner, who, by the way, was a big influence on Donald Trump. There's just no question. He was, the whole "you're fired" thing is all kind of a riff on Steinbrenner. But that idea of intimidating your opponents and using your aura of invincibility, that's essentially what Putin is trying to do against the Ukrainians, which is why what you and I are trying to do is doubly important. Anytime you get one person talking about Ukraine, it matters. And I'll give you an example. I don't know, Brian, do you have life insurance?
I do not.
I don't either. But before I left on this trip where I met you, I decided, well, shit, I better get some life insurance. So I called up Dave, my insurance guy who handles my, car insurance and stuff. And, I've talked to Dave, my insurance guy, dozens of times over the years. A really cool guy, good natured. And I didn't tell him why I wanted the life insurance, but we started the process. Then they were trying to reach me when I was in Ukraine, and understandably, I didn't get back to him. When I came back, I told him the reason I was out of touch is I was in Ukraine, and he wouldn't let me off the phone. He was so interested.
Right.
Then I sent him this article on war-torn Ukraine, and he shared it with several friends, and they all want to know what they can do to help. So I think that individual by individual approach is really important.
Now, going with that, individuals that you're speaking about, what did you think of the variety of people that were there, that took the time out of their lives, that risked, whatever they risked to go and actually put their hands on some equipment to drive, like I did. I drove literally several hours through Poland, through Ukraine. One of the coolest things that I've done in my life. It was, beautiful countryside and beautiful, nice people. It was a lot different than I expected. I thought it was going to be a lot more, devastation and destruction and, people that were down and just, what you think kind of like a country at war would be. But it was the opposite. It really was. It was difficult for me to see any destruction, especially in Kyiv. Like I was surprised because they tend to either really repair it real quick, or they, it's just the city's so big that, it's hard to find the sporadic strikes, that Russia has been able to get in there without the air defenses catching it. You know what I mean? So I was very surprised that it just looked like a normal city with normal people doing normal things. But I'm kind of curious your thoughts on, the variety of people. We had Harry Dunn, former Capitol Police officer. We had Ken Casey, lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys, former Congressman Denver Riggleman, yourself, Ken Harbaugh from Valor Media and Midas Touch, Duke. We had, so many different people that were on this trip. Can you speak a little bit about, did it surprise you? Did it kind of, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I love that. And it did surprise me. I mean, we were over there 6 days. I was over there 6 days. Mm-hmm. And, those are 6 days that, feel like a month of memory. And that was obviously a lot of it was the Ukrainians, but a big chunk as well was that incredible sort of spirit of, I don't know what it is, camaraderie, brotherhood, just feeling instantly connected. I mean, you and me, I had talked to you like 4 minutes in Kyiv, right. And it was like this feeling of being on the same page about something important is not going to go away. There's nothing that can change this. And I think that having the people, I mean, again, me, so I've done a lot in the realm of books on politics and, write for the New York Times sometimes on politics, but I've also done a lot of baseball books, like 10, and like kind of random to have some guy who, is friends with Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy here, right. in Kyiv. And that was a way to make it a much deeper experience where any of us connecting, you just feel all in so much, I think. And I'm really keen on getting more people over there on more aid convoys, because again, I think you got to start somewhere. I remember when I was a kid, my parents took me, I'm the youngest of 5. So we had this big old family in the station wagon, and we were at the Continental Divide, the North American Continental Divide. And my dad, a judge, explained to me, well, son, if you take a leak this way, it's going to flow into the Gulf of Mexico. And if you take a leak this way, it's going to go into the Pacific. And, that idea has always stayed with me. And I've had book projects that were very much like that, where, I wrote a book about steroids and juicing for Jose Canseco that hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right.
And the New York Times has called it the most influential sports book of the 21st century so far. And, I think RFK Jr., our, current, whatever he is, health secretary, whatever, I think he was influenced by Juiced. I think it's like he saw it as a self-help book, so that reminds me that stuff that you can do can really have an influence. You never know. I mean, again, I wrote what's called, the New York Times is called the most influential sports book. My agent didn't want me to do it. He said, no, well, sometimes if you tell this story, you never know who's going to hear it. You never know what domino that's going to set in motion.
Right. I mean, yeah, I was very touched and surprised at it almost felt like I knew these people like for a long, long time. I mean, I think, like you said, we spoke for a few minutes and it was already like, okay, we're on the same page. I could definitely have a beer with this guy, and not only that, but I think we sat through, I filmed the interview that Denver did with the Ukrainian soldier there. If we could talk a little bit about what he went through. I believe he told us that, he was injured and then he was in a ditch for several days before he was rescued. Just hearing and seeing the emotional and mental damage that it causes when, soldiers come under fire, or their friends come under fire, or seeing dead bodies, or, he was speaking about how, before the war, he could have never imagined doing any of the things that he's had to do now. He was, eating breakfast next to dead bodies and, things like that you wouldn't imagine that a human could get used to. But surprisingly, And unfortunately, you can get used to a thing like that. So what did you bring out of that interview with that soldier?
Well, let me broaden it a little bit, because that was the first of many interviews that Harbaugh and Riggleman and I did.
Right.
And, that soldier, just the look in his eyes, and his whole demeanor, where you just totally got that, it's almost like, you hear about World War I and, Hemingway and these guys. Hemingway was wounded driving an ambulance in World War I. And these broken men that, Gertrude Stein said, you're a lost generation. And you got that feeling of war being so insidious and obscene that it just completely rewires someone. But we interviewed some other people, and another Ukrainian had been part of the resistance in Kherson. And I think it was Ken was questioning him and said, "Oh, so you were part of the resistance?" And the guy's like, No, I wasn't part of the resistance. And Ken's kind of thinking, oh shit, we got the wrong guy. Why are we interviewing him? But then they kept asking questions, and it's like, oh no, all this guy did was assemble landmines on his own to put in the triggers, carry them on his back, bring them out, bury them in the road, and then activate them to blow up Russian, ordnance.
Right.
And that's all he did. He wasn't part of the resistance or anything. So this idea of, in the United States, we live in a culture where people that don't do much of anything celebrate the little that they do endlessly, self-promotion, and having zero, modesty or sense of perspective. So the sense of modesty and perspective for this guy to absolutely seriously tell us, oh no, I wasn't. And we got that from others as well, because to them, I mean, even the word resistance, that's kind of a narrative. That's something that storytellers do. For them, right. They're living there in their city. The Russians came, and it's like, you find you got rats in your, in your pantry. You got to do something about the rats,
Right,
So
right.
I was struck by that. Just no drama, no sense of having any interest to try to puff up anything that they had done, because they don't have time for that. That's a kind of luxury. And that's something that really has stayed with me. Of you see a lot of people in our country, too much time online, too much time on their phones, too much time on shit that really doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And then,
right.
I'm kind of in awe of the way that the Ukrainians, with what grace, they bear this burden of having to fight for their country in a way that's so difficult. Like you say, the mind games that are Vladimir Putin's specialty. So interviewing that soldier in Kyiv in the same studio where Ken Casey and the guys,
right. How cool was that?
That was so cool. So amazing.
So I mean, to see them record, and for anybody that didn't get to see the podcast in which I kind of explained that, it was a meeting between Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys and a band called the Oh Hamsters from Ukraine, who had done a riff off of one of the Dropkick Murphys songs. Ken actually came across it somehow, or it was sent to Ken. Ken loved it so much that he asked Ken Harbaugh if somehow we could, meet these guys and get these guys in a studio and maybe record. And Ken Harbaugh somehow got that done. So we ended up meeting at a recording studio. Ken Casey actually sang in Ukrainian. They went over the music and the song, and we got to see the producers asking them to do it again and put the sound. It was a very cool moment. Not only that, but in the back room, that's where we did our interview with, that Ukrainian soldier. So it was a very, the whole trip was, because everything was so scheduled, and from, I keep telling everybody, from 7 to 8 was breakfast, and then 8 to 10 was we go off and do this, and then at 10:30 we go off and do this. So it was you don't really have time to kind of process what you just did because you're already thinking about where you have to go next. So I think the one consensus, or one of the consensuses around the group was, it was going to take a week or two or a couple weeks to kind of process, what happened on the trip, what we saw, what we did. Of course, we have to be careful in what we show and obviously what we talk about because of sensitive matters and people's security over there. But this is just something I wanted to point out here. This was in the Kyiv Independent. I'll do that later. This is 50,000 Russian troops pinned down. Ukraine halts advance in Sumy Oblast. Summer offensive faltering, Syrskyi says. Which is obviously good news. Ukraine has halted Russia's advance into the Sumy Oblast, stabilizing the front line and blunting the momentum of Moscow's summer offensive. Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrskyi said on June 26th, based on the results of May and June, we can say that this year's wave of the enemy's summer offensive from Russian territory is faltering, Syrskyi said, reporting that Russian troops in northeastern border region had been stopped. Moscow launched its new summer campaign in May, aiming to push deeper in Ukraine's northeast and eastern regions, disregarding Kyiv's calls for unconditional ceasefire. Russian forces have made modest gains, occupying around 449 square kilometers, 173 square miles in May, the highest monthly total in 2025, according to the open source intelligence. But I mean, to have, again, we talk about the resilience and we talk about how Ukraine is winning this war. This was supposed to be a 72-hour operation, according to Vladimir Putin, according to the Kremlin. And here we are several years later, down the line with Ukraine still holding strong, with Volodymyr Zelensky, still on, as the leader, doing everything he possibly can and seemingly making the right choices, because they do seem to have, a good fighting force that is willing to defend their country at all costs. That is the one thing that I got from the Ukrainian people, was their love for their country and the fact that they would do anything and will stop at nothing to defend it and to get the Russians out of what they rightly claim to be sovereign territory of the Ukrainian people. You know what I mean? So it's good to see this. It's good to see this. What do you think?
That's great to see. And, you talk about the resilience of the Ukrainian people, there's the fighting force, and then there's the whole population. And that was the thing that, over late night conversations that really came through strong for me, is that even if the Russians roll up more territory and make some advances, even if, Kyiv were to fall or something, that the Ukrainians are going to keep fighting on. And they've shown incredible ingenuity, for example, in drone technology, in tactics, and they will continue to evolve their tactics and ingenuity and technology. So, even if the war takes some bad turns, they're still fighting. So I think a lot of Americans, I mean, myself included, on the night that Donald Trump was elected again, my first thought went out to, and I know a lot of people in politics, and I was very worried about a lot of things, but my first thought was to the Ukrainians and that feeling that Trump was going to try to sell them out. So as of now, as of today, it seems like maybe Trump is feeling like maybe he's going to help the Ukrainians. Maybe he's even going to send some more patriots. It's all possible. We can't know. But it's so important that people are aware that whatever Trump does, the Europeans are stepping up enough. And, I lived 9 years in Germany. I speak German. My wife's German, but I'm pretty knowledgeable about German politics. Friedrich Merz, the new chancellor, is
yes.
Yeah.
He has been very good.
Yeah. And, he's just a different guy than Olaf Scholz, who was there before, who was said the right things, but then didn't follow up enough. So Merz, the Germans aren't going to like everything he does, and probably you and I aren't. But he's more of a man of action who's willing to try to do stuff. I liked that he went to Lithuania while you and I were in Ukraine. Merz was in Lithuania talking about the threat of Russians there. So what I would like to see, let's go back to Ken Casey, because I genuinely want your take on this, Brian. I want to write possibly in the Harbaugh-Riggleman book about the Ken Casey effect. That it matters that a guy from the Dropkick Murphys is over there in Ukraine, learning enough Ukrainian to cut this tune. And my question is, can he inspire other musicians? I'm old enough that I was actually at the Live Aid concert in Philadelphia when you had all of these huge musical acts gathered. I guess you'd call it a cub reporter with no idea what I was doing, but I'm in there filing a story to Newsday, which was a big paper. And, it was great. It was, and like, we are the world.
Yep.
But like there was a time when musicians got together and their agents didn't tell them, the studio didn't tell them, they just went out and did it. Bruce Springsteen spoke from the stage in, what was it, Manchester, and he spoke from his heart. Why don't they do like a benefit concert, a free something in Central Park or in San Francisco? Or why aren't people out there just doing stuff like that? I really don't know. I want to ask Ken Casey what he thinks about that, but it doesn't have to be Bono or Bruce Springsteen, but there's got to be artists willing to write original music about Ukraine, do something,
Right. Well, I mean, I think I know Ken's been doing this a long time. He's toured, Europe and Eastern Europe. I think he said it was his first time to Ukraine, but he had toured, all the major countries around it, surrounding the area. But he does a good job of putting it in the music, the message, as opposed to, having different music, but in between the music kind of talking about, Ukraine. But I don't know. I would love to be able to, I mean, he's doing a festival in July in the area that I'm hoping to catch. And maybe I could ask him. Maybe I'll ask him, because if I talk to him, I'd love to. I'm sure it's something he thought about. I'm sure I'm not bringing anything new to his attention, but I'd love to know if it's easy for him or if he's getting any support or what he thinks. So, I mean, I'd love to be able to report back to you on that and see what he says, because I think you're absolutely right. Because people love music, right? And they really, if you admire the artist, then you will probably listen to what his other beliefs are as well as the music, so if he's coming out and telling you it's important for you to continue to talk and speak and support the people of Ukraine, then I think at least somebody in the crowd, even if we catch a few of them, are going to be like, okay, let me go to that website that he told me to go to, or let me donate to United 24, or let me help in this way, let me send a couple of shirts, or whatever the hell it may be. Maybe if we could start getting people that way, we're such a big country that 10 or 15 people at every concert, that'll start to add up to a lot of help and a lot of support in a major way. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a great idea. And let me see if I can run it by him if and when I can catch him in July for the festival. That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. Before we go on, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's here. Please remember to hit the like button. Please remember, you can also become a Patreon member at patreon.com/BostonBrian. You can also become a member. There's a button somewhere underneath me to join and become a member to the team, the family of Bryantologists. I think it's $2.99 a month. It's the best $2.99 you'll spend any month. So there are some fantastic ways to help. You can also send a super chat or a super sticker. You can also donate or become, donate memberships and become a member, like I said yourself. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it, because without your help and assistance, this doesn't happen, and I can't do this as a living. So thank you. I really do appreciate it. And Steve, thank you. I appreciate your time. We have probably like 15, 20 more minutes, but I just want to make sure I thank you for taking the time out to speak to me. So I really do appreciate it.
Well, and thanks for having me on. Really, it's so important to just keep this conversation going, to sort of take that vibe that we had in Kyiv or in that studio when, we were in there with Ken Casey, and it was so, you knew it was unforgettable. And then you got to just keep talking about it in different ways. And, I think I told you, I can tell your audience that I've done books before where I've done collections of different essays. Mm-hmm. I'll be working on something on Ukraine. Hope to have you in there, of course. And I'll come back then to talk about that. First up is working with Riggleman and Harbaugh on our project, which we hope will be a film and a book. And we're getting, really good feedback from people. There's a lot of interest in the project. And as you know, Riggleman and Harbaugh are very dynamic guys who, when they decide to do something, they do it. So that's an awesome project to work on. But I'll be looking for other ways. If there are other Ukraine stories to tell, just to humanize this and also to help people think forward. because I think this is one of the sort of tricks of Trumpism. I think, you talked about how people will be thinking about this for a long time. There's this ability to flood the zone, as Steve Bannon talked about, so much so that people don't seem to be able to think forward very well, even next week or next month. And so you need to fire up people's imaginations. There's a death of imagination that is set in, where things that, even thinking about George Orwell and the lessons of 1984, which, when I was a college student, that would be something that kind of people did. It feels like that's kind of out the window because everything is so immediate. There's just less and less of that. So I think we have to rewire the national mind a little bit somehow, which sounds a little sinister.
Right.
But I think you got to try. You got to find ways to do smelling salts.
Now, I just wanted to point this out because we've gone from I can end the war in 24 hours, says Donald Trump, to Donald Trump admits it's actually really hard to end the war in Ukraine. So what is it? How long has he been president? So he's gone from, he even said he was going to end this war before he took office. This was 24 hours after being elected president, not taking the oath of office. So now we've gone from that to what we see here as Trump admitting it's actually really hard to end the war in Ukraine. So what do you think? What do you think about this? What do you think about him actually being in control at this moment, where it's very important to have the best leadership in order to protect the people of Ukraine and defend against Moscow, the Kremlin, and Vladimir Putin?
Well, okay, I think a lot of things at once, but basically when I see that headline, I'm actually pleased because we know Donald Trump is not a man whose empathy is his defining characteristic. In fact, he may be a pure sociopath with zero empathy. That could be the case. But when he said it's easy to end the war in Ukraine, what he meant was it's easy to sell out the Ukrainians and give my buddy Vladimir Putin, my man hero, man crush. It seems like Trump probably has that. There's that famous picture of Putin with a bare torso on top of a horse, trying to look tough, or playing hockey. It seems like Trump has those on his wall. He wakes up and looks at them. But it seems like somewhere along the way, something happened where he wasn't only thinking about Putin and what Putin wanted. Because if you were only thinking about Putin, yeah, it would be relatively straightforward to completely sell out the Ukrainians. Maybe people persuaded.
Let me stop you right there, because you're right. You hit the nail right on the head, because we've seen a definite change in Donald Trump and the way he's approaching the situation. It's kind of confused everybody because, like you rightly said, we thought he was definitely cuddling up next to Vladimir Putin and was going to give him anything he wanted. But at some point, something happened. What do you think? My question is, what do you think actually happened? Where do you think it was somebody in Trump's team that got to him? Do you think it was Trump himself getting frustrated at the fact that Putin doesn't listen to him and doesn't actually want peace? I mean, what do you think that changed? And I'm not saying that Donald Trump is all of a sudden 100% pro-Ukrainian and all of a sudden going to do everything it takes to help the Ukrainian people, but there is a definite, like, not hand in hand with Putin anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he said a few things against him, talked about how he doesn't want peace, but he's also given him, like the 2-week thing. Oh, I'll give him 2 weeks to decide if he wants peace. So it's kind of back and forth now, as opposed to definitely all in Putin's pocket. So I'm just kind of curious what you think was the moment, or what may have happened to change that kind of behavior in this situation.
Well, he's the opposite of a strategic thinker. He doesn't think forward at all, and he doesn't care what he doesn't know. So he's the classic, like you said, a dumb person's idea of a smart person, where he sounds really smart, but then he'll like say, "Oh, who knew? If you whatever, like oh, you bomb Iran, the oil prices go up." And then he was trying to talk them down on social media as if it hadn't occurred to him that would happen. It's like, wow, that really
we got a
takes
few of them. Yeah, he said things like this.
We appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time.
Or something like
when
this.
You ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular. And pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular.
Thank you for that baseball themed Trump quote.
Yeah.
So
You know, I'm
what
just
I
getting you. I'm
choose-
just getting you. I'm just getting you.
You're just getting
acclimated.
acclimated. You know what that means? Acclimated.
You're killing me. You're killing me. It hurts. It hurts. But I genuinely think he wanted to be elected president again, just so that in his mind, it somehow proved he didn't lose the other time, even though, of course, he lost the other time. So he just wanted to be able to, they talk about own the libs. It's like the, schoolyard bully wanted to say neener, 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 or whatever.
Right.
He wanted that. Just sort of the ego, the rush of it all, being back in the action. And then, of course, he wanted the equivalent of getting the armored cars up to literally drive away billions in dollars of money that they are like some Latin American, dictator just raiding the national treasury. And Trump has, of course, gone to the Middle East to get billions of dollars one way or another. Was he there to get money in his back pocket or to do stuff for the US? But this was what he was thinking about. Mm-hmm. And so this is my theory of the case. We're in June, almost July. He knew he was going to spend the first half of 2025 distracting people in different ways and making off with a ton of money so that there was generational wealth for the Trump family, tens of billions of dollars, to make him a player in terms of one of the richest men in the world, instead of being a billionaire on paper only. Once he did that, my theory is he's kind of like, oh, now what do I do? Like there's the famous, the candidate with Robert Redford. People always talk about that. They win, he wins. And then it's like, now what? They never thought about it. And so Trump is here. Now he's got to actually exist in this world. The Europeans are saying they're going to spend 5% on a defense. That whole issue is a little more complicated than people cover it, because the Europeans, and again, I covered some of this stuff for years, they were counting other kinds of spending. So Trump was missing the point. But anyway, they've ponied up now, and they're taking the Russian threat very seriously. I think it has become harder for Trump just to just ignore the Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. But we know that every week is a battle. We know that he's going to cook up more distractions. Personally, Riggleman and others will say that continuing to foment violence in the streets will be a major strategy. And then you crack down, just like we've seen in California, and you distract. So if we move in that direction toward, martial law and that kind of thing, then who knows? Then Trump might just forget all about the Ukrainians. So it's a constant battle. But I really genuinely think it's not that he's bored exactly, but he sort of did the things that were on his checklist. And so there's a little bit of this now what? And I think he's starting to think, like we in sports, you talk about the guys who believe their own press clippings. He's starting to believe, like, am I a great president in his world? And like, if he were actually a great president, maybe he would be like, Nixon going to China. Maybe Trump, the guy who was, tried to sell the Ukrainians out repeatedly, maybe he solves it for the Ukrainians and blows everybody's mind. He's always just thinking about what would surprise people. So that's my take on that.
Now, did you see, let me see if I can pull this up just as we get out of here, what Trump said to the Ukrainian BBC reporter there? Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can. This was, I feel like, where the hell is it? I'm going to try to play one that doesn't slow everything down. Last one I played tended to slow everything down, but maybe I'll just show this. I'll just show the article. How about that? That way it doesn't, I don't risk showing everything down. Basically, this was President Trump shared a compassion. Let me just make sure you guys can see it. I'll put it on screen because that would be very prudent and very thing to do. All right, so this is the name. Trump shares heartwarming exchange with Ukrainian journalist whose husband is a soldier. I wish you a lot of luck, is the quote. President Trump shared a compassionate exchange Wednesday with the Ukrainian journalist who said her husband was a soldier. As she asked whether the U.S. would supply the embattled country with Patriot missiles in its war against Moscow at a press conference at the end of the NATO summit in Hague, BBC Ukrainian respondent. Fucking hell with this thing. How do I get out of here? Oh, there you go. Ukrainian responded, Miroslava Petsa asked the president, quote, whether or not the U.S. is ready to sell anti-air missile systems to Ukraine. Quote, we know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now, she added. Before addressing a question, Trump asked Petsa, are you living yourself now in Ukraine? My husband is there, she said, and me with the kids. I'm in Warsaw, Poland, where we were, actually, because he wanted me to. Trump said, is your husband a soldier? And then she said, he's there now. He also said she said he is. Trump said he's there now. The president asked. Petsa responding affirmatively. A visibly moved Trump responded, wow, that's rough stuff, right? That's tough. Trump then went on to affirm that Kyiv wants to buy the weapons from the U.S. and pledged that we're going to see if it can make some available. He also said, it's very hard to get. We need them too. The president continued, we're supplying them to Israel, and they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective, and they do want more. Any other thing, as you know, probably. That's a very good question. I wish you a lot of luck, Trump told Petsa. I mean, if I can see it's very upsetting to you. Say hello to your husband, okay? Thank you. That was basically the exchange that they had. But, I mean.
Yeah, and I did hear that. And, in fact, that's partly what I was talking about, where Trump, he's not a guy who's going to read a Wall Street Journal article. He doesn't process information that way. He watches TV, and when he talks to people, he remembers those little exchanges. And, that's part of his connection with the MAGA movement, where out there he's talked to people and he kind of remembers what they say. He's a very anecdotal thinker. He'll always talk about that. And, I think we've all become longtime Trump watchers. The way, if you listen to the audio of that there was a way where he wasn't distracted. He wasn't kind of disparaging her. He was really listening. And that wow did sound fairly sincere from him. And I really think that little exchange is going to stay with him, again, for some period of time, to remind him of what you and I were reminded of, the humanity of the Ukrainian people, of you speak to them directly. And it really makes an impression, because as I was talking about, she was downplaying sort of her bravery, her husband's bravery. She was just trying to do a job of being a journalist. And I think
Vladimir Putin really has to end that war.
Sorry, my
people
apologies.
Are dying at levels that people haven't seen before for a long time. Go ahead.
Sorry, my apologies. It just played automatically when it came in. But this is the exchange. I just wanted, because you were talking about the way he was not distracted and the way he was focused, and I just wanted to make sure to play the video and the audio so that people could make sure that to see what you're talking about. I'll turn it down just a little bit if you want to talk.
Let's do it. No, this is great.
All right, gotcha. All right.
Go ahead. White shirt. Oh, she's all excited.
So, BBC News Ukrainian.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh.
So my question to you is whether or not the U.S. is ready to sell anti-air missile systems, Patriot, to Ukraine. We know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you're very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He's
there now?
Yeah.
Wow. That's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available. They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel, and they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective. And they do want that more than any other thing, as you probably know. That's a very good question, and I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So.
All right. So that was the exchange. Oops, sorry. My apologies. That was the exchange between Donald Trump and the BBC reporter from Ukraine. But it's hard for me. On one hand, I it's good to see that he shows some compassion, I guess, as far as what compassion is to Donald Trump. At least he knows that he's supposed to express some compassion in that situation, whether it be real or fake. But the problem I have is that it could be just that. It could be just his politician sense kicking in, knowing that he has to say a certain thing in a certain moment you know, and knowing that he has to show some sort of remorse, some sort of compassion to this lady, even though he knows in the background he's really not doing much to help defend her husband, to help defend her homeland against Vladimir Putin. So it's kind of it's a good thing, and I don't trust him as far as I could throw the fucking fat bastard. You know what I mean? So when he actually comes through with getting Ukraine more Patriot missiles, more anti-air defense missiles, then I will, you know, put my hand up and give praise where praise is due, right? But up until that moment, I don't trust a fucking word he says. I don't care how compassionate he seems. It's you know, to me, it's all a ruse. And if he wanted to end this thing, and if he wanted to help Ukraine in a way that would actually end this war and defeat Vladimir Putin and his military, he absolutely could. So, I mean, that's just kind of my thoughts on that situation. As we kind of round out here, let me hear what you think finishing out. I apologize for cutting you off, but I just wanted to make sure I showed the clip of that.
Oh, all good, man. All good. But I am with you 100% on everything. I don't trust anything. And even if he did supply the Patriots, then it's like, what does he do later? Because he can undo anything he does. But I would just say there are people like, you know, the bizarre Lindsey Graham, who we won't even get started on, but people that do seem to have some influence with Trump. And, you know, that exchange right there definitely helps someone like Lindsey Graham, who's trying to persuade Trump to just go for it. You know, so that's the way I think of it. Like, what are the conversations that Trump's having with people around him? And even Rubio, probably, I don't really know. I don't know what any of them actually thinks versus their posturing, but it feels to me like there were a number of articles written before Trump took office again by like Tom Friedman and then Max Boot in the Washington Post. They both argued that Trump would probably do the smart thing, which would, in order to get peace, first show Putin the hand of helping the Ukrainians so that you have a stronger hand and then you can try to make a deal. So I think he might belatedly be sort of getting around to that play, even if what he really wants to do is still to sell out the Ukrainians. So again, we can't trust him. He might at least try to arm them some. But, you know, these things have a dynamic of their own. So any Patriots that he sends, again, when you've been in a Ukrainian city, when the attack is coming in, when you know what they're dealing with every night, even just a few more Patriots helps. It's something. It matters.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And again, we have to stay on it and make sure, even if a little is done, that we do more. And if we talk to somebody and make sure that we get the word out, make sure that they talk to somebody else and it spreads kind of like that. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for your compassion. Thank you so much for showing the support that we all should be showing in this moment. Thank you for taking the time out and risking what you risked to go over to Ukraine, to make sure that you saw it with your own eyes, to speak to the people firsthand. And you know, it's really important that we continue to tell our story, and that we continue to make sure that, again, this stays on the headlines, this stays on the front lines of people's minds and doesn't get brushed aside. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. You have the open invite anytime you want to come on. Anything you need to promote, you just give me a buzz and I'll be more than happy to have you on. Okay, my friend.
Sounds good. And we got to get together in California, either down there or up here. So great. Thanks for
yes,
having me.
Absolutely. So you just let me know, and whatever I can do to help, whatever you want to do. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Take care.
Take it easy. Thank you. Later, bud. All right. Thank you so much. That was Steve Kettmann. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Say hello to your daughters for me. That was fantastic. That was very good. So thank you so much for taking the time out. You are, again, like I said, well, more than welcome anytime you want. And thank you guys so much in the chat. You guys are fantastic. You guys continue to show your support and love for not only this channel, but for the people of Ukraine. And I could not be more appreciative of the love and support that you guys continue to show, whether it be just the Slava Ukraine, whether it be, getting some United 24 merch, whether it be just speaking about it with your friends and your family. You guys have been a real boost to the people of Ukraine, whether or not you know it or not. They are very appreciative. They are very, very appreciative of all the support that the Americans and anybody overseas give to them. So thanks again. Make sure you guys hit the like button, share the stream out. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. This is the Thursday show. You guys are fantastic. I appreciate it. All right, let's get into the second half of the show. Thank you so much. Thank you to the mods. Just, randomly right off the bat. Thank you, Mel. Appreciate you very much. I love you. All right. So what I wanted to kind of take a look at in the second half was this kind of wild and wacky press conference that Pete Hegseth gave. So if we could just dive a little bit into that, that seems to be something we should kind of take a look at. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Hit the like button. This is Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth holding a press conference on 6/26/2025. And let's see what wild and wackiness and incompetence we see from the Sunday, Saturday, weekend Fox News host that couldn't make the weekday couch. That's also a raging alcoholic sexual assaulter, but now somehow holds the position of Secretary of Defense. So let's just take a look at what happened here. I appreciate it. Again, hit the like button. Please share the stream, become a member, send in a super chat. That would be fantastic. This is now my job. So if you guys don't help, I don't work or I don't live. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. Oh, it'd be good. Hold on.
2 days apart from my battle buddy, so it's good to see him this morning. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
You too, sir.
Where there was a historic outcome. I want to start with that real quick. I think there's so much news, so many things happening that oftentimes big momentous moments get missed. What President Trump accomplished in NATO yesterday was game-changing and historic. A shift in burden sharing to European responsibility in NATO that most would have said was impossible.
No, wasn't impossible at all. And again, he just literally said that he's shifting the burden. So instead of the United States stepping up, basically what they're doing, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm very supportive of any increased NATO spending. If the countries are okay with it and they want to increase their defense budgets, then by all means, increase your defense budgets. I have absolutely no problem with that. But the way in which it's done and the people doing it, and now maybe the reasoning behind it, as far as, their America First policy, their isolationists type of beliefs and policies, right? This is, again, like he said, shifting the burden onto Europe as opposed to the United States also stepping up as it should in these cases.
At the beginning of his term. But he said NATO needs to pay up. They started in the first term, and here in his second term, we've accelerated that. 32 NATO countries committed to spending 5% of their GDP on defense, on actually investing in the NATO alliance. So I hope with all the ink spilled, all of your outlets find the time to properly recognize this historic change in continental security.
He is so worried and focused on media coverage. Like, all he cares about is the headlines about him, how he's being talked about, because it was being talked about by a few people that he was kind of being brushed aside in a lot of these situations. His input really wasn't being taken into account. But he is now, again, where he takes this opportunity to get in front of a mic to make it seem like, and to make sure that these newspapers and magazines and art, whatever, the people inside this room here write proper, good headlines about the situation.
That other presidents tried to do, other presidents talked about. President Trump accomplished it. It's a huge deal. You see, we're here this morning because in hunting for scandals all the time, in trying to find wedges and spin stories, this press corps and the press corps miss historic moments. You miss historic moments like 5% at NATO, which when you hear, I was in the closed door briefing. I wish there could have been cameras in there. When you heard the prime ministers and presidents of other countries, to a man and to a woman.
Oh, that might be something we have to check out too. When Trump met the dignitaries at over there in England.
Looking at President Trump and saying, this never could have happened. Never would have happened. seemed impossible 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 8 years ago. But here we are because of your leadership.
Well, no, technically it's because of the lack of leadership and because of the threat that Vladimir Putin now poses on Europe. They are now forced to increase their defense budgets. Okay, that's what's going on. That's what's going on. So when he talks about 8 years ago, in 2014, so that's 11 years ago. So in 2014, when Vladimir Putin actually started this campaign, as opposed to the full scale invasion in 2022. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Lil Pete lost his shit, got scolded by Jennifer, a reporter from Fox Propaganda Network. Hegseth had to suck it up. It was delicious. It was a chef's kiss. My God, what a bell end. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much, Yvonne. I appreciate that. I really do. And thank you to everybody that's gifted or sent in a super chat or become a member or signed up for the Patreon. You guys literally keep the food in my mouth. So I really do appreciate you guys. All right, let's continue. We'll catch that pot. I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
If you ask them the question, I bet they'd say the same thing. But searching for scandals, you miss historic moments like recruiting at the Pentagon. Historic levels in the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. Yeah, maybe there'll be a little mention here or there. But because it was under President Trump's leadership, because Americans were
because always, speaking is good sometimes in front of cameras with a microphone because of the wonderful things he does.
Responding to him as commander in chief, the press corps doesn't want to write about it. Or bring us to the topic of the moment, the highly successful strikes in Iran. Let me read the bottom line here.
And I just want to reiterate the fact that I have sped it up. I don't want you to think that he's on like crack cocaine or anything like that. I want to get through as much as possible without having to actually listen to his real voice.
President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history. And it was a resounding success.
In history. Is this guy shitting me? So Donald Trump compares the strikes in Iran to Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And now Pete Hegseth is honestly trying to come out and call it what did he say? Hold on. Let's get that one more time. I'm sorry. One more time, Pete. One more time.
Line here. President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in
history. Now, let me just see if I can find this article. Give me a second. Oh, that's not how you spell it. This is though. Let's see here. Yeah, this is share this tab and said. So this is exclusive. Early U.S. intel assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites. Hold on, one more time, Pete. Hold on, give me that one more time. Can I go back? Here we go.
President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history.
And then we go to this. The most complex and secretive operation in history that had zero fucking effect. That set back the Iranian nuclear project a whole 3 fucking months, which is basically the time it probably took them to transport all their equipment and materiel out of these sites, knowing that they were going to be struck. All righty.
And it was a resounding success, resulting in a ceasefire agreement and the end of the 12-day war.
Yep. Again, trying to push this whole 12-day war thing. But unfortunately, the war lasted more than 12 days because after that ceasefire, I'm pretty sure some shit happened. I'm pretty sure that's why Donald Trump came out and started dropping F-bombs because he was mad at the fact that Iran had sent a little package over to Israel, and Israel had responded to said package, right? So again, it's funny that a 12-day war lasted, 13, 14 days?
There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second. Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying.
Destroying, guys. Destroying. Hold on. Destroying. I mean, come on. You can't write this shit. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much. You know what? I can, because there's a lot of fucking little twit shits that went to Princeton, Harvard, Yale, fucking you name it. You know what I mean? They're everywhere. It doesn't matter where they come from. You can find a fucking little prick dipshit like fucking Pete Hegseth, I'm pretty sure. Everybody's got one. But this is funny because he's right now on national television trying to say that it was the most secretive, most effective operation in U.S. history, right? But then his own U.S. assessments, his own U.S. intelligence assessments say that the nuclear sites weren't even destroyed. Also, reports say that the project, again, was only set back 3 months. And again, what are we talking about here? Because just because you're coming out and saying this and you're saying it in a way where you're trying to make it really emphatic does not change the fact that you guys also somehow managed to use this 10-year operation, which it was. I don't know if you caught the last couple of shows, but this operation to strike the Iranian nuclear sites was part of a 10-year long operation. And somehow they managed to fuck that up. I love it. All right, there we go.
Iran's nuclear capabilities. I want to read some of the assessments that have been provided because whether it's fake news, CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, there's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment. I've had a chance to read it. Every outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now. Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment.
Right. What did I say, guys? What did I say? What did I say? He just said it there. It takes weeks to accrue the necessary information to assess the effectiveness of the strikes, right? Which is why it's so ridiculous for him to be coming out and Donald Trump to be coming out and calling them, completely successful. What's going on here? I don't know. Something disconnected? Something connected? Am I back? Can everybody hear me? Everybody's good? I heard a beep. Sometimes beeping is never good. But anyway, he's trying to convince everybody that these strikes were effective when, in fact, we know that it takes, again, eyes on, ground, feet on the ground, boots on the ground to get in there and to assess what the fuck actually happened.
Assessment is preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report, there are gaps in the information. It says in the report, multiple linchpin assumptions are what this assessment, a linchpin assumption, you know what that is? That means your entire premise is predicated on a linchpin. If you're wrong,
thanks. Appreciate that. Now that we got that, did you get that? The linchpin assessment is based on a linchpin. Did everybody got that, right? Just want to make sure everybody processed that, because I'm sure that was really what the question that was sticking in the minds of the reporters in the room. So I'm glad he made that completely easy to understand. Holy shit.
Everything else is wrong.
And what he's doing, and he's picking apart this assessment, guys, right? So he's talking about this assessment. I don't know if he's talking about this. He's not talking about this specific article, but the assessment that this article is based on, right? But what he's doing is also going against what he and Donald Trump have been saying, because he's talking about how there's a need for weeks to assess the actual effectiveness of the strikes, right? He's talking about how this U.S. assessment has gaps because you have to assume certain things because you don't have eyes on, you don't have boots on the ground, you don't have people under the rubble actually looking at and talking about what the fuck actually took place, what was damaged, what wasn't damaged, what was actually inside of these sites when they were struck. Right, that's a huge thing, because if they were just empty sites, then basically all we did was force the Iranians to build new sites. But if you're that far into it and you have nuclear sites, I would think you would have backup sites, right? So if me, Boston Brian, sitting here on Blunt Politics is thinking, hey, if we have nuclear sites, somebody's going to want to attack those. We should probably have backups. Then I'm pretty sure the Iranian government, the Iranian regime has probably thought about that. So basically what had happened is, if they were empty if they are empty nuclear sites, then that changes the effectiveness of the strikes, regardless if everything was destroyed or not, right? So this is what he's doing. He's actually trying to pick this assessment apart, but in turn, he's picking apart the fact that Donald Trump told you that they were completely successful strikes and that everything was obliterated and that the Iranian nuclear program was completely obliterated and it ceases to exist. You know what I mean? So he's actually going against his own. He's going against his own arguments, going against Donald Trump's arguments. So this whole thing is beautiful, because again, he's sitting here thinking that he's owning the reporters, owning CNN and the New York Times, yada yada yada. But in fact, again, he's just sitting here making a case that he and Donald Trump have no idea how or about the effectiveness of these strikes.
Severe damage. Again, this is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful. I'm going to get to the chairman in a moment because he's going to lay out the particulars for you based on his professional military experience. But here's what other folks are saying. The DIA that put that report out says that this is a preliminary low confidence report and will continue to be refined as additional intelligence becomes available. How about the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission? The devastating U.S. strikes on Fordow destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable. Have any of these quotes made their way into the New York Times or the Washington Post? MSNBC?
Well, he's losing his shit here. I mean, I don't think it's like anybody thought that these sites weren't rendered inoperable. I mean, I think you can tell that I think that's something you can tell from the satellite imagery, right? That, like, I don't think people are showing up to work at these sites the next day. I think there's probably going to be some rebuilding involved. I don't think that was ever like in question. The question is, what was in those sites? Was everything removed? Did we actually take out what was going on in those sites, or did they move everything out to different sites and our strikes basically just took out buildings, right? Which, again, I think we all know buildings can be rebuilt.
CNN, any of these quotes? How about this one? This is a new one from the UN, the United Nations. No friend.
Again, why we're going to take the word of the Israeli Atomic Agency? Do we not think they may have some reasoning or, you know, some motive behind saying that these strikes were absolutely effective, considering they're the ones that started this war in the first place? Can we just put that into perspective, right? Are we actually going to take the word of the Israeli government, the Israeli Atomic Agency on this? I don't fucking think so. I wouldn't touch or believe or trust anything coming from the Israeli government with a fucking 10-foot pole and you pushing.
The United States, or certainly Israel often. Here's the head of the UN Atomic Energy Agency this morning, Rafael Grossi. U.S. and Israeli strikes caused enormous damage to Iran's nuclear sites. Don't take my word for it. How about the idea?
He's doing a Donald Trump. Remember when Donald Trump used to come out with the fucking after court and he'd have the stack of papers, right? And it was just basically all fucking the articles that had his name in it from that day, or quotes in big font so he could see it. This is the Donald Trump approach to being defense secretary after a strike that was ineffective in a war that Israel started and the United States then got involved in. This is what's going on right here. Just to make it clear for everybody.
EF's chief of staff. I can say here that the assessment is that we significantly damaged the nuclear program, setting it back by years. I repeat, years.
Again, just vague. How many years? How many years do you think? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years? I didn't hear anything in that suggested anything specific, but I have heard other analysts and experts talk about how it's possibly around 3 months that they set it back. That's what I have heard as a number.
The Iranian foreign minister, the spokesman. Our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure. I'm sure that's an understatement. John Radcliffe, the director of the CIA, putting out a statement just last night. CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from a historically reliable, very different than preliminary assessment with low confidence. He's saying historically reliable and accurate source and method that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years. CIA continues to collect additional reliably sourced information.
Again, that's based on the assumption that there are no other sites that they could use, right? We'll just throw that little wrench in there. I mean, he's talking about rebuilding these sites as if they have no other sites. Again, something we don't know, may not have. Again, but it would be a big talking point if he's talking about buildings that really, in the grand scheme of things, don't mean much if there are other sites that they could use, right?
To keep appropriate decision makers fully informed. How about DNI Tulsi Gabbard yesterday?
Oh, here we go.
She writes, and I quote,
the Iranians, what'd you say about the Iranians? Were absolutely not trying to get a nuclear weapon. Let's see if we can pull up Tulsi. Iran nuclear. See if that pulls it up. Let's see here. Tells you how they could produce. Oh, she now says they could produce. Trump dismisses assessment on Iran. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Share this instead. This is from, I don't know, Responsible Statecraft. Tulsi said Iran not building nukes. One senator after another ignored her, disregarding the director of national intelligence. Seems like an odd thing to do unless you really want to go to war, right? So I just wanted to point this one out. You're the best. Thank you so much. I'm dying. Thank you. I'm dying. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have the Coke button on my desk. Oh, that's great. But I just wanted to show you this because this was what Donald Trump actually went against, what the Republican senators actually went against the assessment by Tulsi Gabbard, who, again, I want to remind you, is the director of national intelligence for the United States of America. So just to point that out.
Intelligence confirms what POTUS has stated numerous times. Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed. Institute for Science and International Security President David Albright, overall Israel and U.S. attacks have effectively destroyed Iran's centrifuge enrichment program. Time and time again, I can go down the list. Those that understand, those that see, those that do proper assessments recognize that what the United States military did was historic. And again, before I pass it to the chairman, because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard.
Look at this guy. This is the defense, the defense secretary. Oh my God. He's like a little child. He is so mad about the coverage. He is so mad he doesn't get the great headlines. The grandstanding and fucking taint licking and boot kissing of Donald Trump is just almost too much to handle, right? It's remarkable that all he cares about is the headlines. All he cares about is his attachment and his his proximity to Donald Trump.
It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump because you want him not to be successful so bad. He is
weak, good, weak, ill man, a weak little man. You could actually turn that into weak, ill man, because I think this man's got some issues going on in the upstairs region. I don't know if it's he's a sociopath. I don't know if he's just something's happening up there because the man is just not right.
To cheer against the efficacy of these strikes, you have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration is representing them isn't true. So let's take half truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it.
He's losing his shit. I love it.
The Trump administration's representative isn't true. So let's take half truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every
No, Josh, I'll have to look that up. Let me see if I can find that.
Way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people
Sir, I think you have this all backwards. I don't think anybody was taking credit away from the brave men and women of the armed forces who were used as pawns in this whole thing because Benjamin Netanyahu needed the United States to get involved. So therefore, we had to put in place a 10-year plan of striking Iranian nuclear facilities, thus putting B-2 pilots, F-22 pilots, F-35 pilots, people on aircraft carriers, people on, refueling planes, all of their lives in danger, regardless if they're even in an area where they may or may not be attacked. It's also a danger just to be in the air in these aircrafts, right? Something could go wrong. The engines could go down, this, that, the other thing. So these lives are being put in danger. at the behest of Pete Hegseth, using a 10-year plan under the direction of Donald Trump to put the U.S. military people in danger to affect these strikes, which again we are now coming out and hearing through analysis through the United States intelligence agencies and others, that yes, buildings were destroyed, but the effectiveness of the strike upon the Iranian nuclear program was minimal compared to the amount spent and the the amount of equipment used, the bombs that were dropped. So, I mean, that's basically the gist of it. You know what I mean?
Understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did.
Yes, nobody's taking that away from them. They did their job. Unfortunately, the job they did was then put in place by morons, and it was either too late or the word got out, and it seems like the Iranians knew that these places were going to be attacked, and they managed to move said program. I mean, that's just what you would have to assume based on what we're hearing and the intelligence analysis.
That because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible. And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that?
He is fucking unhinged. I think I have here what Eric Swalwell said. Is this what you were talking about, Josh? Let me see if I can make this a little bigger on the screen for you guys. So this is Eric Swalwell on Twitter, 6:45 a.m., June 26th. So that's this morning. Did Defense Secretary Hegseth start crying today during his press conference? My God, is he emotionally stable enough to lead our military? I mean, honestly, that is definitely a question that needs to be asked. And the answer to that question is no. He is absolutely not emotionally stable. I mean, just think of, I don't know, defense secretaries of the past, right? And their demeanor and the way they spoke in front of cameras, right? Whether you like them or not, whether they're dickheads or not, whether they should be in prison or not, you can see that there is a certain way that you should behave and handle yourself and speak to the media and present yourself as a representative of the United States of America, regardless of your position. There's a way and a way to function and ways to speak and ways to handle things that you were probably coached on when you get into these positions. But Pete Hegseth being emotionally unstable and incapable of using said directions because of his either, I don't know, maybe he's mad he hasn't gotten his alcohol yet, right? Maybe it's been too many hours since his last drink. He's had to do too many press conferences, so he couldn't get a happy hour squeezed in between there somewhere. Maybe he's just unhappy about that. Could be. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out, though.
How about we talk about how special America is, that we have these capabilities? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is, you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated, choose your word. This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans.
And historic.
And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal.
Wrong.
To prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about.
Wrong.
Years, and no other presidents had the courage to actually do. So with that, I want to hand it over to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They've done technical analysis on this, not just on the strike, but also on our Patriot defenders and all you need. And Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, and all of you. Thank you for.
This is for you guys that don't know. This is who Trump calls Mr. Raisin Kane, right? The guy that was hired because of his name. I know you've probably heard Trump say it in speeches or in press conferences. So this is Dan Raisin Kane, the man that he's always talking about here.
For being here. As a follow-up to my comments on Sunday's press conference, I wanted to give you a few updates this morning on something I'm honored to do as a chairman, and that's a chance to get to talk about some of our service members and the incredible things that they do on behalf of our nation. And I apologize ahead of time for the length and the detail. Today, I'm going to brief you on a couple things. First, I'm going to talk about our air defenders at LUD.
Yeah, you're boring. I don't want to talk. I don't want to listen to you. The only thing I wanted to listen to or talk about is our emotionally unstable, unhinged defense secretary, who's really, really upset that he hasn't had a shot in, I don't know, a couple days now. Somebody get that guy a Truly, get him a fucking a high noon, get the guy something, right? Because he's about to blow a gasket. All he needs is a good headline. Please, people, give him a good headline. Give him a good headline. That's all he needs to take back to his wife and his mistress and his mistress's mistress and the mistress he has to that one and the one that he beat up twice. They'll all be really happy about the headline. Don't worry about it. But how are you guys doing in the chat? I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Hey, Diane, how are you? How's everything? I appreciate it. Hey, moms, what's going on? Doesn't matter which side you're on. I'm tired of our troops being used. Absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And they are being used as pawns in this situation. I have absolutely no doubt about it. Again, not demeaning or talking, not taking away anything from their actions or their bravery or the duty or the missions that they undertook. Unfortunately, if your leadership sends you bad information, or if your leadership sends you into the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, your bravery can still result in an ineffective mission. So that's basically the gist of it. So we appreciate everybody that serves in our armed forces. Thank you so much. And sorry for the fact that you are absolutely being used as pawns by Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, Pete Hegseth, Raisin Kane, and the other nutters in the Pentagon that are just, thirsty for blood, thirsty for war. But thank you so much for tuning into Blunt Politics, the progressive podcast that tries to sift through the bullshit of the mainstream media. Basically, it's just politics with a Boston accent and an attitude. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for hitting that like button. We're trying to grow this platform. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers. So in any way you could help me do that, I would very much appreciate it. Share the show on Blue Sky. Share it on Instagram. Share it on Facebook. Tell your friends, family. I am on Sundays. I am on Tuesdays. I am on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So there are multiple shows depending on what your schedule is that you can tune in and catch. And don't worry if you don't catch it live. That's okay. If you got other things to do, if you're working, don't worry about it. The show will always be up there on YouTube for you to watch. You can watch it later. Drop a comment after it's posted. Share it after it's posted. Again, you guys are fantastic. I really do appreciate it. Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you, dude, for your services. Appreciate you being here. Blunt Politics, yes. Sunday at 1 p.m., Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and Thursday, again, the day show at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much, Mark, for putting that in the chat. Hey to everybody on Twitch. Hello, everybody on Facebook. Hello, everybody on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate you. All right, what should we look at next? Let's see here. I know I had a few things I was going to watch. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Appreciate you guys. Let's see here. Tiffany sent this. Maybe we'll send this. I like when the mods send things over, so we'll check it. Check this out. I'm going to share this tab instead. Put this on the stage. Thank you, Tiff, for sharing this. Let's see what we got here. Is this I think this is a Jesse Dollamore video, if I'm not mistaken, but let's check it out.
With the recent deadly violence on June 14th, which saw the murders of Minnesota State Rep Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, as well as the shooting of another couple, John and Yvette Hoffman, it's clear that the level of political violence is continuing to rise. Our guests today have recently been through their own terrifying ordeal for having done nothing more than exercising their First Amendment right to criticize President Donald Trump. Together, our guests reach over 1 million subscribers every day with their hugely successful YouTube channels and podcasts. They're here to talk about the rise of political violence and the
this is pretty cool, huh? What's this show called? Dalmore and Page sound the alarm on political violence. What's the name of the show? The Dangerous Ones Podcast. The Dangerous Ones Podcast. All right, let's check out a little bit of what they're talking about here.
Contacting the FBI and the police to force the issue. And even
those that don't know, Jesse Dalmore, Brittany Page, friends of the show, have been on. Love to have them on again. Two people that I very much look up to in this space. Jesse and his, no nonsense, no bullshit type of attitude towards politics is something that I really relate to. I'm sure you can kind of see the similarities. Brittany, who is kind of the opposite of Jesse. She is very, reserved and calm and, knowledgeable. She dives deep into multiple different subjects on her podcast. Check out Jesse's podcast as well. He does his own show on YouTube. She has her own show on YouTube, and then they come together for the I Doubt It podcast. So that's something you should definitely check out. I appreciate you for sending this in.
Wake of Ed Martin being the attorney, the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, where we live, they secured a guilty verdict, a guilty plea, and there were consequences. So we're thrilled, and hopefully it sends a message to others out there who think that threatening sexual violence against
I think Jesse actually and Brittany were dealing with somebody that had sent some serious and concerning threats to them. So I believe I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that's what they're addressing here. Let's see if we can catch more of like some some daily content of what they're talking about, some current news.
Is just part of what we do. Like you said, it's just, I don't want to punish the good people who call the people's hotline. And I love listening to people's messages. I have a great time, and I'm not going to punish them because there's one or two crazies out there,
Yeah. And also we were just recently, obviously the three of us at the No Kings event, and, people came up to us and said, hey, love the show and stuff. And
get out to your local rallies, get out to your local marches, get out to your local protests. Make sure you're checking out the schedules in your area, see where you can get to. Anybody that gets out there, please. The more people that show defiance, the more people that show that we're not going to just lay down and let these people walk all over us and use us and the military, the people that defend this country, as pawns in their little war games, in their little quest to become authoritarian dictators. To remove and rip people out of schools and hospitals and homes and work, to send them to foreign countries to sit in a prison that, definitely doesn't treat people right. Let's just we'll put it that way, right? So I appreciate you, whoever this is, this guy, for getting out there. Look at the line of people too. That's great. That's great. Love it. Love to see it.
For the first time, I was like, oh, fuck, right. That's because they can fucking see us. You know what I mean?
And I did have a thing where I was like, oh, fuck, they can see us.
So I was curious, just real quickly, do you guys ever get that? I mean, obviously, I know people go up to you guys, but do you ever have the feeling of like, whoa, that's a little like,
I'm definitely gonna have to catch the rest of that after the show, because that looks like something I'd definitely be interested in. So thank you so much for sending that over. Let me see if I can get back here. I think there was something else that I wanted to check out too. Let's see here. Yep, we already did the Mondami thing. That was good. I showed you those. What was this? Yvonne sent in American reacts to British military drill embarrassing the USA. You guys want to take a look at that? Let's see. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Let's see. Let me share this tab instead. See what's going on with this. We're a reaction show now. We're gonna do reactions. Oh, here we go.
A video by BFBS Forces News, and this video is comparing British military parades to the recent U.S. Army 250th anniversary parade that happened recently here.
Oh no, don't do that. Oh no. Don't do that. That is going to be terrible. Oh no. Did you guys hear what he said? So let me get rid of these ones. So he's gonna compare, or somebody made a video comparing, the British military and their marches and their drills, and then compared it to Trump's birthday parade. Oh no, we're definitely gonna have to check that out. We are definitely gonna have to check that out. All right, so let's get into it. Grab a soda, grab a fucking beer, roll one up. Let's go.
In America. So anyway, this video seems to suggest that the British military is a lot better at parading and drilling. So naturally, as a proud American myself, I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at this and see for myself who is better at the parading and the military drilling. So let's take a look.
Rank upon rank, moving in unison. Each move exquisitely acted.
I mean, it's not. Yes, okay. It's impressive, and it is in unison. And you know what? I don't even know if this is a fair fight, because as I'm seeing right here now, British military members, you guys have these amazing ceremonial red dress uniforms.
Oh
with the
no, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be so terrible when they cut to Trump's military parade. There's no music. They're not in unison. Oh, geez. Oh, no. You know what? That's weird because oh, no. Oh, no. It's going to change YouTube a lot because YouTube used to have all of these like British YouTubers, and they'd react to how like the power of the U.S. military and what an aircraft wing looks like, and what aircraft carriers actually travel with as far as security boats and what actually goes into it. This is going to change YouTube a little bit. This is going to change YouTube a little bit when all of a sudden it's like British YouTubers react to Trump's military parade. Oh shit! Strap the fuck in. Here we go.
Furry hat. How that already gives you an advantage, aesthetically, very cool. If we're talking about like the precision and stuff of the actual parading and walking, the marching.
And I'm sorry if I'm supposed to know who this YouTuber is, I don't. I apologize. It just happened to be the video I sent, so I'm not sure. Don't give me shit if he's said or done things in the past, or if you don't like him or whatever. I don't know.
That's impressive. Everyone's in unison. Looks pretty cool. Okay, I get it.
Precision, poise, perfection. Military drill performed exceptionally like this looks amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
This doesn't look so good.
Oh no!
Lackluster, lamentable, laughable.
What?
Oh no! Oh shit! Oh no! Hold on, I can't do it that way. Oh no! Give me that one more time. I'm sorry. The transition just kills me. Look, watch the transition between the fucking militaries. Oh no! What happened? What did we do?
Amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
This doesn't look.
Oh shit! Oh no! I'm so sorry, military. I am so sorry. You were done dirty. You've been done dirty. This is wrong. This is wrong. Oh no.
Looks so good. Lackluster, lamentable, laughable.
What?
Oh, no.
What is this? Surely we.
What is this? Oh, jeez.
Can do better than this. Is this what I really didn't watch much at all of the 250th Army Parade that happened recently. Is this the best we can do? Is this what we're doing?
It's the same question everybody asked when they saw it. Is this what's going on now in the military? Like, is this what's happening? This is what's going on. What happened to like the drill sergeants, making sure everybody's fucking uniform was spick and span. There was no fucking marks on your boots. Your belt was done right. Your hat was fucking tilted to the right position. Your salute was fucking down pat. Like, isn't that like kind of the U.S. military that we know? What happened here?
they don't even really look like they want to be there, to be honest. Like, and there's really no effort at all going into any kind of synchronized marching, or I'm pretty sure there are regiments of the U.S. military that are like good at marching and parading. I don't know what happened here.
Military drill is a high stakes business. So the question is, to drill or not to drill?
Okay. I guess we chose not to drill. Kind of a strange.
Yeah. By drilling, I believe they mean practice. Like you gotta practice being in unison. You know, just show up one day, throw on a fucking uniform, start walking beside your buddy, and expect to be in unison, as well as the British military is doing it right here. Takes a little bit of practice. I think you do it a few hundred times before you actually get in front of people.
Strange choice for like the 250th anniversary of the U.S. military. Kind of a strange choice to just have everyone walk so casually.
Lackluster, lamentable.
It does look odd because, you know, with most countries.
Right. You think you'd have, I think what he's trying to get out is you think you'd have more pride. You think you'd have more passion. You think you'd put a little bit more into it, a little bit more flair. If you're going to go all out, like Donald Trump said, we were going to go all out for the 250th anniversary, for his fucking birthday, right? If we're going to do it right. I mean, if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Don't make it. I mean, this is one situation where you could either show your power on the world stage, or you can get laughed at by Kim Jong-un, by Vladimir Putin, by any other dictator that loves these parades and loves having, you know, the show of power, right? If you're gonna do it, we have the numbers, we have the military force to put on a military parade. Not that I think we should be spending money on that by any means. I don't. I think it's a waste of fucking money. I think we should have done it some celebration in some other way. There's a million different ways you could have pulled off this celebration without having the military get involved, without spending millions of dollars and ruining roads and yada yada yada. But if you're going to fucking do it, bust out a couple missiles, bust out a couple nukes, bust out a couple thousand troops, bust out a couple hundred tanks, bust out thousands of military vehicles that we have. Make this impressive. Show the people on the world stage that we mean fucking business, and that if you fuck with us, you're gonna get fucking, you're gonna pay for it, right? I'm just saying. I don't like war, but self-defense isn't war. I'm just saying. Well, if you're gonna do it right. That's all.
When you're doing formal military parades, I mean, usually it's like very precise, impressive marching. So, yeah, I guess I'm a little disappointed to see that.
Driven colour in Britain, officially known as the King's Birthday Parade. It takes place every year at Horse Cars Parade in London on the official birthday of the monarch. And I've been lucky enough to witness this precision spectacle several times, and it never fails to impress me.
Wow.
This time the Coldstream Guards are drooping their colour.
Very good. This is for the King's birthday?
I mean, come on. There's no denying that looks a little bit, a lot more formal, a lot more rehearsed, a lot more regimented, a lot more militarized, a lot more, better. Better.
Some people were saying that the parade in the U.S. was for Trump's birthday.
Wrong.
But it was also for like the 250th anniversary of the Army, I think, as well.
Contrast this scene with another parade happening thousands of miles away.
Receive specialized training for fighting
There's
in
a
complex
flag.
conditions.
I wonder where the
Period
flag
spent
came
in
from.
active-
Washington, D.C., the U.S. Army Grand Birthday Parade. And if I was being unkind, I'd say some of them were ambling rather than marching.
Oh, no. Oh, what did we do? What did we do, folks? And the guy's just talking in the background. Is that what that is? I know there was no, a lot of what people said was no marching music, right? Which, typically helps them march because they march to the beat of the. Anyway, is this what I'm hearing in the background? Is just a guy talking about the military walking by?
After period spent in active.
Washington, D.C.
It is. It's just there's like rock music playing in the background. The guy's just kind of explaining something in the background. I mean, just an absolute shit show. An absolute shit show. Look at that.
see the US Army Grand Birthday Parade. And if I was being unkind, I'd say some of them were ambling rather than marching. If they can't put the effort in here.
This is strange to me. Because I know people in the military in the United States are well trained, and they learn marching and drilling and parading, and just like any other country does. We certainly have the capability, like other countries, even Britain. I think we also have specialized like parade drilling.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do, specifically for this reason.
Platoons that their purpose is to be like the best of the best at that, and flipping the guns up into the air and all these marching.
I believe that's the Marines.
And it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we do that here in the U.S. I don't understand what went wrong with this.
I mean, you guys very well could be right in the chat. I don't think we'll ever know, really, unless it comes out from some of the people that were involved in the marching, or not marching in this case. But it very well could have been, somebody said this earlier in the chat, that they just didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? They just didn't. But still, it's still hard for me to even take that into account, because it's hard for anybody to understand the passion that the people have in the military for the military, right? So regardless of the day, time, situation, event, I truly believe that they would come out and represent themselves as the best of the best regardless. So to see this type of, kind of lackluster, just walking next to each other, not in unison, no marching music playing, no military music playing, I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of protest. Maybe it was some sort, but again, it's a protest that has ramifications, right? It's a protest that people all over the world are going to see and not really understand, because it's not clear if they were protesting. It was just they're just kind of there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't, but there should be some sort of sign. There should be some sort of way that we could recognize that this was a form of protest or something like that, because without that, it just looks just like what this guy is saying, just looks lackluster. It just looks unprofessional, untrained, right? And these very well could be like new recruits. I don't know. I haven't read that deep into it. Could be very well new recruits that were just tossed in there before they've had the proper training. I don't know. But either way, for the 250th anniversary of this country, this is not the way that you represent the military. This is not the way you represent the power and the prestige of the United States military. It's just, it's not. And obviously people are noticing.
This 250th anniversary Army parade in particular, strange choice to make it so casual. It's not a good look.
Yeah. What would they be like on the battlefield? But maybe they got it right. Perhaps the British military is far too obsessed with drill. It's no use, some would argue, simply an anachronistic throwback to when Britain mattered, and we.
Oh, I am positive Americans would say, yeah, okay, drilling, sure, whatever, fancy drilling, but all that matters is our tactics and.
No, I'm not saying we don't know that for sure, and I'm not saying that's not the case, but I'm just saying it would have been a little more impactful, I believe, if there was some other sign to show that it was some form of protest. That's all. Because again, people watching this are not automatically going to think, oh, they're protesting Donald Trump and his regime and ICE and all that. They're not going to think that. They're just going to look at it like this guy's looking at it. He hasn't said a word about, oh, maybe it's a protest. He hasn't said a word about, oh, maybe this is them going against the government, or maybe they did this on purpose. So obviously it's not something that came across as a protest to other people. That's all I'm saying.
And our arsenal and our weapons and our training and our combat ability. Forget the drilling. I'm sure that's what Americans would say to defend this.
I'm desperately cling to that. I think I disagree, though, and here's why.
Oh, and the narrator says that he disagrees, that drilling and parading is just like kind of useless ceremony. This has a purpose. And I want to hear what he has to say. But of course, the drilling has a purpose, like to show discipline, for one thing. Like, if you can do this kind of thing well, you can do a lot of other things really well. And it's also just a sense of pride, you know? Maybe that's not like the greatest reason ever, but you want to have pride in what you do.
Foot drill or just drill goes back thousands of years. Soldiers would march into battle. They expected to gather in.
Let me see. Is this what you're talking about, my friend? Is this what you mean?
This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Well, already they are saying tonight
with those who did not come back. Hey, Dad! At Arlington National Cemetery, President Bush placed a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns. And fighter planes passed over in the missing wingman formation to honor the men and women who died in the Gulf War. The president choked back tears several times as he spoke directly to loved ones of those who died.
We celebrate the fact that each person we commemorate today gave up life for principles larger than each of us. Principles that at the same time form the muscle and strength of our national heart.
Now, say what you will about your grievances about the, the acts and policies of President Bush there. It just, remember when people sounded presidential, right? Remember when you could almost tell the man was a representative, was the leader of a country by the way they spoke, by the way they carried themselves. I mean, just listen to the way this man is speaking as opposed to the way you hear politicians and Donald Trump speak now. And again, put aside your feelings of the Bushes, right? And I'm just talking about strictly, rhetorical presence, right? Just the way that you carry yourself as a president, the way you talk, the way you recognize the moment as a serious moment and someone in a moment that you should show like actual compassion. Right. Exactly, Mel. Exactly. That's basically my thoughts. Exactly. You know what I mean? So it just, to me, it's a big difference. But this shows in a couple of minutes shows the difference in the march and the parade and in coming back from the Gulf War compared to what we saw for the 250th.
Eileen Rollins said her son Jeffrey, killed in the desert, would have liked the ceremony.
Jeff was total military. He loved the service and he loved his country.
Faye Hawes's son Jimmy died when a missile hit his tank.
He loved what he was doing, and he died for what he believed in.
On the wide boulevards, just a few blocks from the White House,
Right off the bat, more in unison, more professional looking, more serious looking, right? Better dressed. More military. It's just the whole thing right off the fucking bat. You can tell is more serious, right? It has been taken more seriously by these people.
Thousand Desert Storm troops were moving out. And once again, it was General Norman Schwarzkopf who set the cadence, leading the way as far as the presidential box, where he spent the rest of the parade as cheerleader and spotter.
And can we just say, again, unlike Donald fucking Trump, it looks like the president of the United States actually watched over the parade. Actually, respected the soldiers enough to sit there and watch them march and watch them pass by and to make eye contact and to salute them with the general, right? Storm and Norman. There you go. You got it, Hal. You got it, my friend. Storm and Norman. Right? So you can tell, you can automatically see the difference in this. I'll just play a little bit more to further drive home the point as I'm a little bit over time, and I'll let you guys go soon. But just a couple more minutes of this, just so you can really see the difference in presidencies, in military leadership, in the way the military conducts themselves, I guess, under different leadership, right?
For a clearly delighted George Bush.
And And
So
what do
much-
I say all the time? What do I say? The leadership of a military has a way of bleeding down into the military ranks, right? So if the leadership is scum, if the leadership doesn't care about human rights, let's go all the way back in terms of Adolf Hitler, right? When his policy of basically kill on sight, when his policy of no soldier will be reprimanded for unjustified killings on the spot, when he actually gave out the order to round up Jews to his commanders, right? Like that filtered down into the ranks of the Luftwaffe, of the army, right? It filtered all the way into the SS. I mean, it bled all the way down. So regardless of the good intentions of the people that enter the military, right? Regardless of the good intentions and the equipment that they have and the abilities and the capabilities that they have, if the leadership is shit, if the leadership is poison, that poison will continue to infect downhill leadership, which leadership then affects the people that they lead. When they lead people, then that affects them. So if the leadership is lackluster, doesn't care, sloppy, disgusting, then we see that represented in our military. And it's amazing how it does filter down like that.
Military hardware was moving that at times it appeared Washington was under attack. The stealth bomber, oddly shaped to deceive radar, led a fleet of 82 planes over the
82 planes
parade route. The Patriot missile got the loudest applause of the day. Several 100,000 spectators lined the streets, most with the same message.
We're here just to say thank you and to celebrate our victory, but to say thank you to all the men and women who serve in the armed forces.
I think that this is a wonderful occasion, but we don't want it to happen again because we don't want war.
Peace activists had protested against today's celebration, but they drew only a few protesters to their rally. A Harrier jet fighter on display near the parade was splashed with blood, and the protesters were arrested and taken away.
All right, we get the point. It's amazing to see the difference. And like I said, let's just one more time. I'll actually show one more time. Here we go. Check the difference in the parading between then and now. We'll do a little comparison. Ready? We'll do a little comparison. One more time for you guys. Ready? Here we go. Again, just to set it up, this is 1991, the return to Desert Storm. This is how seriously, this is how much more powerful, this is how much more involved this parade was as far as showing off the military might of the United States military. So this is just a little comparison between that and the 250th.
Side boulevards, just a few blocks from the White House, 8,000 Desert Storm troops were moving out. And once again, it was General Norman Schwarzkopf who set the...
In unison, marching correctly to military marching music, with 80 or so planes flying overhead, with military, with Patriot missiles getting a huge round of applause, right?
Leading the way as far as the presidential box, where he spent the rest of the parade.
The president actually watching over said parade, actually giving his time and attention to the people of the military. Right? I don't know. Again, we don't have to respect the man, but we can respect the fact that he actually took the time out to act as president, to respect the office of the president, to be there for the troops, right?
As cheerleader and spotter for a clearly delighted George Bush. So much military hardware was moving that at times it appeared Washington was under attack. The stealth bomber, oddly shaped.
So much military hardware was moving that at times it seemed like Washington was under attack. Right? That's how friggin' big this occasion was. That's how big this celebration was.
To deceive radar, led a fleet of 82 planes over the parade route. The Patriot missile got the loudest applause of the day. Several 100,000 spectators lined the streets.
I don't know. It's a lot different. It's a shame that we actually kind of outdid ourselves in 1991 as opposed to the 250th anniversary. And again, I'm not even saying that we should have spent any money on a parade. My argument is that if we were going to do it, if we're being forced to do it by our fucking Fuhrer, the dear leader himself, then fucking do it right. honor the military, honor the men and women that sacrificed their lives in order to keep democracy a thing, democracy going, not only in the United States but around the world. Let's make the world recognize our power. Let's make the world recognize the prestige of the people, the men and women that enter our armed forces. Right? That's just something that would be my logic. That would be my thinking. But again, I would rather not spend any money on it and put that towards something better. Put that towards schools, or put that towards helping the homeless or building homes, whatever it may be. But that would be better. But thank you guys. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to thank everybody that gifted, sent in a super chat, a super sticker, anybody that sent in a Venmo or a PayPal. You can do that just above me somewhere over here. Nope, over there. It's over there in the corner. You can take a picture of that, send in a buck or two. It really, really goes a long way, especially now since I've made this my career, my job. I'm really relying and dependent upon the support that you guys continue to show, and the growth that we see in the channel. So like people like Nordez that are just unbelievable patriots, unbelievable people. Again, gifted 5 memberships going to 5 fantastic people. Make sure you guys thank Nordez if you are one of the lucky ones to receive the memberships. Let's see here. I'll go down the list and I'll thank everybody. George, Brian has a piece of the Berlin Wall. Yep, it's this one right here. That's that one right there. A little piece of the Berlin Wall. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool things back here. I think I showed you guys this before. My Zelensky doll. Right? That one's pretty cool. If I turn this way, you can see my pins. I got my Ukraine patches here. Ukraine patches, Black Lives Matter. Little setup with the books here. I got the I Alone Can Fix It with the Peril, and the Fascism by Madeleine Albright. That's a good one. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff. I really appreciate Mel for helping and basically setting up the background, because she is fantastic at that stuff. And I think it looks really good. I do. I think she did a fantastic job, and I appreciate that. Fix that flag. Let's see. Yeah, fix the flag. What flag? This one? Oh, I'm knocking shit over. Which flag? I don't see a flag. Can you see a flag? I don't see it. I don't know. We'll fix it after. Let's get thanking people. I appreciate it. Nordez, once again, first on the list with 5 gifted subs. Typically, you can count on Nordez being the first one in there with 5 gifted every single show, which is fucking just unbelievably awesome, and couldn't be more appreciative of what you do. JD's typically next on there somewhere. So JD, thank you so much for the $10 profanity bonus. I definitely need that. Thank you, Josh. I'm not going to Cali, Bri. You know that. It's always going to be Boston. Thank you so much, Susie. I appreciate you. She says, love you, Bryantologist. Thanks for adding shows. Thank you so much for being here to watch for the added shows, because I was really worried that maybe nobody would come, maybe nobody would watch. You got other things going on. But I really am thankful for you guys showing up. So thank you so much, Susie. Thank you, Yvonne. I really appreciate it. And yeah, he did lose his shit. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see him get scolded by the reporter. Should I see if I can pull that up real quick? Let's see. Hegseth gets scolded. Maybe that'll bring it up. We don't play a little games. Oh, did he scold of? We don't play a little games. Petehead scolds media. Goes off on media. Did he get scolded, or did he scold? Did they scold him? Got scolded by Jennifer, a reporter from Fox Propaganda Network. Hegseth had to suck it up. It was delicious. Is that this clip? Hegseth berates news media. Hegseth returns fire. You chair against Trump. So scolded. Pete Hegseth, scolded reporter. Fox. Oh, is this one right here? Fox reporter. Let's see if I can pull this one up. Is this the video? No video on it. Let's see here. Nope, not that one. We don't play as scolds. Let me see if it's this one. One sec. Let me see if I can play this for you guys. Let me get this off the stage. Let me remind me that I left off at Yvonne. Let's see if I can do this. I'll do this, and then let's see if I can share this tab instead. Make it bigger. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see that. All right, let's see if this is the one you're talking about, Yvonne.
Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Four Dome Mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance. Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
About the ventilation shafts on Saturday night. And in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here. And I appreciate that. So we're looking at all aspects of intelligence and making sure we have a sense of what was where.
Why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female.
I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question when you come out and specifically recognize only the male participants in this. I think it's a fair question why you wouldn't just recognize the troops as a whole.
Bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope
sure
the men and women.
I'm sure you do, you sick prick. The more females around you, the better, right? Yeah. Make sure everybody keeps their sons, daughters, aunts, uncles away from this guy. Especially after he's had a few drinks, because he's liable to get him in a room and force him against the wall when their husband's a couple floors down in the hotel room. So watch out for that. All right, let's get back to thanking everybody. Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate that. Rachel came in with $2. Thank you, Rachel. Can you believe this twit went to Princeton? Rachel came in with another $2. Do you think Tulsi Gabbard misses being a Democrat yet? Chances are when she lays her head on the pillow, she really wishes she could go back to being on the right side, but unfortunately she's gone a bit too far, and I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate your contributions. Thank you, Sheldon, so much. Thank you, Josh, so much. Thank you, El Stinko Fosh, for being here for 13 months. Let's go. Huge. My dad can beat up your dad energy. I think you're absolutely right on that one. Right? Definitely high school. Like my dad drives a better car than yours type of energy. Thank you, though. I appreciate you. 13 months. That's huge. That's huge. Thank you, Jimbo. Another great show, Brian. Thank you. Well, that's fantastic of you to say. I appreciate you. Luckily, the internet played ball today and allowed me to do a show. So thank you, Jimbo. Thank you, Rachel, again. The soldiers did not want to be at that stupid parade. Could very well be true. Could very well be true. Thank you, Nordez, again for the 5 gifted. You are fantastic. And to round it out, Petrazi, been here for 1 year. Let's go, Petrazi. I gotta get like a chair or a bell or something like that. What do I got? Do I got anything? There's got to be something. Let's see. No, like a yay. No, I gotta get my soundboard back. I gotta download that app again, get my soundboard back because I don't. Mel's yelling in the background. No, something. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the political commentators that you watch today. Make sure you support progressive media. Make sure you support whoever floats your boat. 1 second. Hold on. I really do appreciate you guys. Make sure you're supporting, the creators that tickle your fancy. What I typically do is take $10 a month, and then if you can support, I know it says $3 for a membership, so maybe you get up it to $12 a month, and then you can support 4 different creators as far as memberships or on their Patreon. Again, check out patreon.com/Boston Brian. We have a VIP Zoom tonight, so anybody that signed up at the VIP level, get your Zooms ready, get them fired up because I'll be there tonight. I appreciate you guys. Thank you to the mods. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Rox. Thank you, Adam. Thank you to all you guys that help out. Thank you, Mel, especially. Thank you so much for the donating and liking and everything. You're 100% right. Thank you so much. I wish I could sit here and thank you guys for longer, but I'm going to let you go. Enjoy your day. Appreciate you being here. Until next time, I am Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Please please, I will see you. What's today? Thursday. So I will see you Sunday, 1 p.m. Hit the bell, the notification bell, so you know when I'm going live. Again, the political podcast to sift through the bullshit of the mainstream media, politics with a Boston accent and an attitude. But get out there, get off your seats, get out of your sheets, get into the streets, get your signs ready. Stay active, stay aggressive, get loud, stay proud, keep your head on a swivel. And until next time, I will see you on Sunday. I appreciate you. Have a nice day. Thank you, guys.
Brian, you're drunk. You're drunk.
Like we always do about this time.
Where you going? Nowhere. It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful life. Give yourself a round of applause. You're so lovely. Everyone's so lovely.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Fucking Nazis.
Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting. Never fight uphill, me boys. But it was too late. Vagina. Our army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Or go fuck yourself.
Bad news, bad news. Even when it's good news, it's bad news.
Yesterday is a hard word for me. No word, I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid.
Taking him back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
He says, wrecked him, damn near killed him.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
I'm just an average guy who read public documents where the elite said they were going to enslave us and destroy America, and I'm not going to be like yuppies come and deny the threat to my country. I'm going to fight back.
White people are a mortal danger to you and your loved ones. The population in Thailand is 63 million people. It is twice the size of Wyoming. Its chief exports are textiles, footwear, and rice. Each year, approximately 13,000 people are killed in car accidents in Thailand.
Man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
Tell the director to call the White House. Do your fucking job!
The big, fat, sloppy United States.